Hello. Today I'm going to be talking about why the modern man post-industrial revolution is a chronic mouth breather and has malocclusion issues. And then I'm also going to explain why the current orthotropics movement is riddled with misinformation. Yes, it's purposely spelled out that way, and I am going to define it in a couple minutes. It's general knowledge that over time, the jawline and the risk of malocclusion has essentially just gone up, right? For example, we've had, you have like foragers, having the best jaw lines, obviously. And then, once we started farming, yeah, here's some more foragers for you. Once we started farming, malocclusion, we had mild malocclusion, but wisdom teeth still grew in. And then post industrial revolution, our jaws just got smaller, wisdom teeth didn't grow in. We know the case. Like it's general consensus at this point. In proof of the fact that a wider palate, essentially, or I mean, a palate is your upper. I'll show you what a palate is. A palate. Um, this is a palate. Okay. It's it's generally recognized that a wider jawline usually is equal to a wider palate, which basically it's the evidence is limited, but it's more or less considered general consensus that um, the wider your palate is, the easier it is to nose breathe as you have more nasal cavity volume, right? As you can see here. Oops, no. Yeah, this highlights section basically highlights it. This body of science is still really new. I mean, it's not new. A lot of it's like well-known knowledge, but just getting all the data for this, it's still a relatively new science. So, yeah. Modern dentistry is great. You have malocclusion or crooked teeth and they fix it. Um, as post-industrial revolution, it's just gotten more and more prevalent as our diets have been getting softer and softer. Like it's like what according to like what yeah like most kids have crooked teeth. Okay, so they fixed it. The issue though with this is that looking, there's a difference between having a proper airway and, there's a difference between having a proper airway and, being beautiful, right? So, look, it's going to. Orthotropists take a different approach to malocclusion. They essentially try to promote forward growth by pretty much just chewing hard foods and like mewing, pretty much. That kind of sums it up. And yeah, that's kind of it really. And I mean, they have like ideally you won't even need any orthotropic treatment if you chew hard foods as a little kid. and like actually develop jaw muscles, which is true. Like it is objectively true. Um, I'm not gonna go too far in depth of the mechanics of that because that's the video for a whole other day. Um, but it's general knowledge that like you develop jaw muscles when you chew hard foods, and the reason why we have crooked teeth is because we chew soft foods. Like I said, I'll make a video on that another day, just going in depth, but it's just true, okay? And it's been shown, like foragers had perfectly straight teeth, farmers had a little less straight teeth, but nothing crazy. Post-industrial farmers slash like consumers, their teeth went out the window, okay? It's the relationship is clear. There's evidence to back it up. Like this is not, you don't need to argue about this. However, basically orthotropics tries to, have that same philosophy because they believe that it's a set malocclusion is mostly environmental, which they're right. Like they're objectively right. However, the problem is that they just do a bunch of misinformation, like mewing, which mewing is good. Like that's your natural tongue position, but after the age of like 12, it's not going to actually do much. If you have a narrowed palate and you want to expand it and promote forward growth, because that's kind of what's emphasized, forward growth is very important to these people, and it's legit. Because if you have enough space in your mouth, you can grow all of your teeth, right? They believe that wisdom teeth removal isn't normal, which it shouldn't be. And if done right, they can grow all in. But the problem is that the orthotropic movement made a bunch of nonsense called like thumb pulling, like like self-administered technique designed to expand the palate. And there's an Instagram person who basically talks about it. It's like at best, it doesn't do anything. And at worst, you basically mess up your teeth because you don't do it deep in your palate enough. And it's just not going to work because there's an inconsistent movement, right? Because it's via your thumbs. And yeah, that's kind of the problem. A lot of it, the founders were essentially John and Mike Mew. How ironic, mewing. But they just spread a bunch of misinformation and it wasn't really totally legit. Alright, so here's the conclusion. If you get anything from what I just told you, get this. Orthotropics pros. Theoretically better than orthodontics in most ways. Usually targets the root issue. Ideally, if done early enough when in development of the child, usually pre-puberty is better. It's less invasive. Promotes nose breathing. I should have said that. Promotes nose breathing. And also, if done right, you have your wisdom teeth. Cons. The founders of orthotropics chased a bunch of internet headlines instead of really describing to people what this movement is, why it's important, and why they should be listened to. They instead, chased like nonsense about mewing, looks maxing, which is somewhat similar but mostly unrelated. When it should be focused on breathing and ideally normal wisdom teeth eruption. Like that's like what you want, honestly. And these people, they did a lot of good. They did a bunch of good, but the problem is that they just chased like this like a bunch of internet pseudoscience that doesn't work when this movement can save so many lives and help people breathe better and just feel happier, but they just didn't do that, unfortunately. So it's up to us now to do it. Anyways, orthodontics pros, straight teeth is pretty much it. It kind of goes downhill from here. Possible decrease in airway, reliance on a retainer, especially after braces. Usually wisdom teeth removal, and then TMJ, which I actually have a little bit of. Probably had it before, but the braces just made it worse.